Hey everyone, and as always, welcome back to Fun in May Nature. The following action is a part of a campaign that seeks to reimagine Napoleon's 1813 campaign. In the reimagined campaign, Napoleon has managed to reacquire Berlin, but he faces odds in the south and has therefore marched south to relieve Davout, who is stationed in Leipzig. To counter this, Blücher has stationed a corps of about 40,000 troops along the heights north of Leipzig. These are to defend against Napoleon and prevent him from reaching the beleaguered garrison of Leipzig. The present engagement was so large that it was spread over two separate tables. Mine is but one of these. Here is the field. In the foreground, you have the Russian defenses outlined by the white line here. They must protect the exit to Leipzig, which is indicated by the white arrow. The first portion of the French army is indicated here. Over time, more and more of them will appear until an overwhelming force will hopefully mash their way through the Russian lines, but that is yet to be seen. The attack begins. And with that, the game's afoot. The French artillery begins to bombard the Russian positions, and in the first turn they manage to set a portion of the village on fire. This bombardment would continue for about 3 turns, over the course of which the Russians refused to retreat. However, eventually they did finally obey the order to leave the building and pulled back beyond the end of the town. By this point, the French had begun their advance on both the town and the large wood to their right. Once the room was cleared, the 3rd French Division entered the table and began their inexorable advance. The artillery bombardment continues. It was at this time that the Russian light batteries guarding the right flank of the small wood in the center were chased away through heavy French artillery fire. The 3rd Division advances to aid their brothers, one brigade of which moves into the woods and outflanks the Russians deployed there. Fierce fighting erupts as the Russians get forced back. At the same time, the French advance along the entire line as well.
Pour la France! En avant!
As the French rushed forward, the Russians, with their normal elan, decided to counterattack. This counterattack in certain areas achieved minor successes. However, it was not sufficient enough to drive the French back. In the meantime, the French attacks continued, this time concentrated around the village. The attack, however, was fruitless, in fact resulting in the units that made it fleeing the field and the officer accompanying it being captured. Further French reinforcements arrived in the form of their heavy cavalry division. The French had also managed to gain control of the church due to the Russians neglecting to occupy it. And the French left-hand division moves forward, unlimbers their guns, and starts to open fire on the Russian ridgeline positions. Yet another Russian counterattack goes in. which is, in the end, as unsuccessful as the first. The French, yet again, throw another assault against the building the Russians still hold. It ends much like the first, except this time the casualties are a division commander and another brigade commander. While the attack on the building continued to flounder, French attacks elsewhere continued to go in and make some progress, which thereby opened a gap through which the French cavalry could come through.
Pour la France!
With that charge, the Russian center is split open, and the way to Leipzig is open. But even so, the Russians continue to put up fierce resistance all along the line.
Pour la France! En avant!
The French Young Guard arrives. At this point, while the building in the village is still in Russian hands, the French have crested the ridge and the line to Leipzig is now completely open. Russian morale begins to degrade at this point, as the building is captured and their last remaining unit on their left flank ends up being broken by a further charge. From there, the battle progresses as one might expect. The French do not give the Russians any chance to recover balance and start to attack the Russian right flank, which hitherto had not been assailed. In the chaos of the fighting, the Russians, however, do not realize that the victorious French cavalry is now circling around their rear. As one might guess, the effect is disastrous. After that, with their escape completely cut off, the remainder of the Russian force proceeded to surrender, and the Young Guard continued to march by on their way to Leipzig. Hey, well, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you come back again soon. I know it's tacky, but if you all want to see more, please like and subscribe. I hope you have a very good day.